So, Ashton, I'll just put it to you. What are your 5 games to watch this week? Obviously, it's a bit difficult. There's a lot to watch, but what are your top 5?
So I'm gonna be ranking these just in how I will be watching these, just from a level of intrigue. For me personally, for me, Utah, Florida is the most fascinating game of this weekend. I think just like you mentioned, clash of cultures, conferences from teams going from West Coast to East Coast, playing in the swamp. It's going to be humid. New coaching staff for Florida. It's going to be rambunctious. I think that's interesting for me. I think it'll be close. I also think that game will be close. For that reason, that game is number one overall for me. Number two is Notre Dame, Ohio State. Playoff implications, for no other reason than that. Playoff implications. This is the number 2 team in the nation versus the number 5 team. You watch when that happens. When it's a top 5 matchup, you have to watch. I think
Yep.
If Notre Dame even keeps this close, I think you feel really good about them going forward. If Ohio State plays really good defense, suddenly they are the team to beat. For me, number 3, we go on to Cincinnati, going to Fayetteville, Arkansas, playing the Razorbacks. We talked about this game already, kind of in a little bit of our previews, but Cincinnati was a playoff team a year ago, and in Arkansas, we're feeling really good about. They're feeling really good about themselves too, not just us. They've overachieved for the last couple of years, and if they can win week 1, like it's all out there for all these teams. All these teams we're mentioning, everything's just right in front of them. These are huge games week 1. If you win, it feels like this is just a springboard for a terrific year. For either one of these teams, the winner feels awesome. Number 4 for me, Georgia, Oregon. Yeah, again, Georgia fan. Like, I would say it's a must watch. Again, I won't be watching the game. Again, don't want to get into it. But it is. It's a must watch. It's defending national champs, playing the number 11 team in the nation, trying to figure out what Oregon is with new quarterback, new coaches. And we kind of know from the pieces that we've seen kind of what they are, but like, how do they gel, and how do you go against a juggernaut in Georgia? I think this game shows us more, just a lot about their mentality at Oregon. So we'll round it off with number 5. And again, it was not easy to get down to 5 games this year,
Right.
or this week. There's so many good ones. For me, it's LSU, Florida State on a Sunday night. That Sunday night late game on ABC. I think it's really interesting. Brian Kelly era begins at LSU, going up against Norvell at Florida State. How does everyone respond? How does this work? Again, I think I know how it'll work. I like LSU. I like LSU big. But I think it's going to be interesting. If Florida State can keep it close, even, it's a moral victory for them. You went kind of technically on the road almost, and played with a very talented SEC school. That's possibly a start for a good year. So those are my top 5. There's so many to get to. Some of the snubs. I think North Carolina, App State is sneaky good right there in the noon window too. So there's so many good games, but got to get down to 5. For me, those are my 5.
All right. I didn't rank mine, but I decided just to choose 5 games, and mine were basically the same. Just working backwards, I have Florida State, LSU, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Utah, Florida. I decided against going Oregon, Georgia. I just feel like there's a greater chance that it's not a blowout, but like a kind of a boring, comfortable win. Don't get me wrong, I'm still gonna be watching it. But I also have Cincinnati, Arkansas, but I wanted to give a little love to West Virginia, Pitt, so I'm gonna put that on my list too. Just want to give them some love too. So those are my 5. Okay, locks of the week. So we're doing this a little different than last year. Last year we would choose our 5, and then we'd choose 2 locks every week, and it had to be from those 5. Made it a little difficult sometimes. So this year we're just kind of opening it up. However many locks we want to pick, could vary from week to week. Doesn't have to be from our games to watch. Probably better if it's teams we've actually heard of, just for people's interest. But I have quite a few this week. I like. How many locks do you have?
So I'm used to just picking 2, and sure. I have 2 that I feel really good about. I'll just go ahead and just throw those out there. I teased one earlier. West Virginia covering 7.5 against Pitt at Pitt. Yeah, I like West Virginia. I think they at least cover that number, possibly even win outright. We mentioned that. The one I haven't talked about is BYU against South Florida. I believe that number is 12. I think BYU wins. I think they cover that. I think BYU they returned just a ton of production this year. Again, they are traveling kind of across country there, but I feel really good about BYU this year. That's my second lock. Those are the only two I have right now. I have a number of them, not circled, at least not in pen yet. But if you give me some time, I might pop off with a few more here. Yep.
I can also get you an 11.5 on BYU. So I'll give you that.
Even better.
That's better. Right. And I'm going to go ahead and jump in on that one with you. I like that number. I'm just kind of spraying the board this week. Okay. There was just a lot that I felt kind of good at. Didn't do tons of homework on all of them, but it was more like I've studied a lot of these teams this offseason, and this number just doesn't make sense to me very much. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit these.
Right.
So I'm just going to go through them. I got Penn State minus 3.5. I don't love that it's 3.5. I wish it was still 3. I think earlier in the offseason it was 3. They play Purdue Thursday night. I just feel like that. I feel like they're probably a touchdown better than Purdue. So I'll take Penn State minus 3.5. I'll take the BYU minus 11.5. I have NC State minus 11.
Yeah.
I don't hate East Carolina. I think that's probably a good team, but I think NC State is like legit, really, really good. I'll take them to cover the 11. I'm with you on West Virginia. We agree on that one, so I agree with both of yours. I got West Virginia plus 7.5, which is kind of a key number, like for betting purposes. Just over that touchdown, that feels good.
Absolutely.
I've got Arkansas minus 6 against Cincinnati. I just trust them more.
Oh, okay.
I like that it's 6. If it was 7, I probably wouldn't touch it. But because it's just under that touchdown, I like it. And it's in Fayetteville. And I think there's a chance that Cincinnati at the end of the year is a lot better than Cincinnati at the beginning of the year. So I'm going to go ahead and take Arkansas minus 6. I'm also taking Houston minus 4.
Okay.
Playing at UTSA. I just feel like Houston is – I think they're on Cincinnati's level this year. I mentioned Tank Dell, the receiver on their team, who's I think he's going to be a household name eventually. If not in college, I think in the NFL maybe one day. He's a small guy, so maybe he won't last super long in the NFL, but explosive receiver, going to be a big name. And I love their defensive coordinator, Doug Belk. I think he's kind of the next Marcus Freeman. So that's my hot take on Houston. So I'll take them minus 4. South Carolina minus 12.5. You were the one who alerted me to this one. Just feels like they're clearly 2 touchdowns better in that matchup. So I'll take them there. I'm under South Carolina on the win total this year, but that's related mostly to their schedule. I actually think they're a pretty good team.
This one here is fascinating for me. South Carolina 12.5 points against Georgia State.
Yeah.
And if this number was like 25, that's where like I would be like, okay, yeah, like I'm not surprised. But if this number was 17, I would be like, I'm all over South Carolina. The number's 12.5. 2 touchdowns. If they win by 2 touchdowns, they cover. That's terrifyingly low. Like it's like someone knows things that I don't. And you go back and you look at Georgia State's last number of games. They beat Coastal Carolina last year at Coastal by 2 points. They beat up on Troy, who's historically a really good football team. Like they're on a little streak here, and maybe that's what people are seeing. South Carolina started out last year really slow. Maybe that's where this comes from. I don't know. Like I told you about the South Carolina 12.5. I'm rethinking it. It's too easy. It's too good to be true almost. But I will go in with you. South Carolina will cover.
Let's go.
The 12.5 points. We have lock agreement. And as of last year, when we had lock agreement, we were actually not bad. So we'll pull the trigger on that one.
And last year we both started hot against Vegas the first half of the season or so.
Absolutely.
And that's why I want to jump in on some of these before Vegas adjusts, because I feel like they get better as the season goes along once they have more data to work with. I feel like I have some strong feelings about some of these teams that maybe Vegas hasn't quite figured out yet. Obviously, I could be wrong. That's just sort of how it played out last year. So chances are I'm going to do a little more. I'm going to go a little heavier on some of the locks this year, early in the year than late in the year. And I just felt pretty good about a bunch of these. I have one more. This is actually an under on the total points scored, and that's in the Clemson Georgia Tech game. The number there is 49. Like you mentioned, Georgia Tech has not scored any points in their last 2 games.
Long time.
even if Clemson bounces back to what Clemson was before,
Mhm.
Clemson sort of made a name for not dominating overmatched opponents as much as they could have. Like they had
Mhm.
almost let off the gas in the third quarter of every game when they were way better than the other team, just
Yeah.
because they didn't have to try really hard. And we saw them turn it up in the ACC championship game and then the playoff. I think there's a chance Clemson could win this game 42-0, and I hit my under the total. Even if Georgia Tech finds a way to score 10 points,
Yeah.
that would just mean Clemson scoring no more than 39. And last year we saw Clemson struggle to score 25. So somewhere in between old Clemson and last year's Clemson would comfortably get me under this 49 number, I believe, because Clemson's defense is the truth. And I don't know that Georgia Tech is going to score.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree completely. I'm going to throw one more on there, just a little extra here off the top, giving me 4 in total.
Okay.
Michigan, Colorado State, Michigan favored by 30.5. I think Michigan wins.
Okay.
I think Michigan covers, simply because I don't believe Colorado State is that good. And I think Michigan may be just a little undervalued this year. So I will be pulling the trigger on that as one of my locks as well. Bring me I have 4 and you have 5 right now. Is that correct?
You have 4. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Holy cow. Okay, not even close. All right. So you still have double what I got. That's fine. Hey, we'll make up for it next week. I'll come with a few extra locks next week. And it is a good idea too, like what you said, jumping on teams early where maybe it's not even Vegas that's wise to teams, but they're putting the numbers at places where they feel are going to bet them. And
Yeah.
teams, people get wise. People get wise to certain teams. But for those of us like me and you, we've been following like consistently all offseason and have really gone in depth on a number of these teams, feel like we have a decent feel at least for certain teams, and we should bet on those that we feel strongly on. So
it sounds good until I go 2-6 this week.
well, okay. Fair enough. We started really hot last year, so let's not act like we weren't good at least for a while. We can bask in that. Yeah.
Vegas definitely caught up to us, and the last half of the season it was rough, and a lot of it was just it was hard to find good edges on the lines like the last half of last year. It just felt like Vegas was nailing all the lines.
Right.
So
there was no South Carolina getting favored by 12.5 against Georgia State. You didn't see much of that.
Yeah, exactly.